You must understand that every so-called sign is simply the mirror of your inner state. When you are fearful, the world reflects fear. When you are peaceful, the world reflects peace. Life is an echo chamber for belief. You say, "Show me a sign that things will work out." And life replies, "Show me your faith, and I will show you the sign." The law is reciprocal. You must first impress the subconscious with the conviction of guidance before the guidance can appear. This is why the scriptures say, "To him that hath shall be given." What you already feel, life multiplies. If you feel lost, life gives you more confusion. If you feel guided, life gives you confirmation. The sign always follows the state. You keep asking for a sign. You keep looking at the sky, waiting for the heavens to split open, for some voice to thunder your destiny. But what if I told you the sign has already been given, and you walk past it every day? What if the answer you've been begging for isn't hidden in the clouds, but in the quiet rhythm of your own thoughts? The universe is not silent. It's obedient. It mirrors the convictions impressed upon your subconscious. And until you learn to interpret that reflection, you will mistake your own creation for coincidence. The sign you crave isn't outside you, it's within you, speaking through desire, intuition, and circumstance. But you've been deafened by noise, blinded by impatience, and you keep asking for a new sign instead of understanding the one already here. When you plead with life for direction, you reveal that you do not yet believe the divine intelligence within you is capable of guiding you. You are like a man standing beside a river, dying of thirst, asking the sky for rain. Every question you ask the universe is answered instantly by the law of your own belief. The signs do not appear because you beg for them. They appear because you align with them. The subconscious mind, joined to infinite intelligence, communicates not in words but in symbols, impulses, and intuition. The voice of God is not in the thunder. It is in the still small voice within. But when you fill that stillness with fear, with doubt, with noise, how can you hear? How can the infinite speak to a mind that will not listen? Many people pray for guidance, but continue to rehearse fear. They plead, "Lord, show me the way," while mentally reciting every reason the way will fail. Their words rise upward, but their feelings drag downward. The subconscious listens not to the prayer of the lips, but to the prayer of the heart. It receives your dominant emotion, not your desperate wish. And what it receives, it expresses. This is why I say, your life already is the sign. Look at it. The patterns repeating are not punishment, they are instruction. The people you attract, the opportunities you lose, the delays you meet, all are mirrors, reflecting the beliefs you have impressed upon the infinite within you. You say, "But how do I know which impulse comes from God and which comes from fear?" The answer is simple. Divine guidance is calm, steady, and sure. Fear shouts, faith whispers. Fear demands proof, faith moves without it. When you are aligned with divine intelligence, your guidance carries the quiet authority of truth. It does not tremble, it does not argue, it knows. The moment you still the surface of your mind, the current of intuition begins to move. You feel a gentle nudge, a sense of rightness, an inner light leading the way. That is your sign. That is the language of the infinite. But you must be still enough to hear it. You must silence the turmoil of doubt and listen from the heart, for God speaks in calm assurance, not in panic. The law is precise, as within, so without. When your inner world is disorderly, your outer world echoes that confusion. But when your inner world rests in faith, the outer world arranges itself in harmony. This is why the true sign you seek will never come to the restless, only to the receptive. You are not waiting for the universe to send you a signal. The universe is waiting for you to stop resisting it. The subconscious can only receive clear direction from a mind free of tension, free of contradiction. The double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Decide now what you believe. Decide now that you are guided, that divine order governs your life, that every step is directed by infinite intelligence, and the signs will unfold like stepping stones beneath your feet. There was once a man who begged the heavens for a sign that he should leave his miserable job. He prayed, fasted, pleaded, but nothing happened. Finally, in quiet frustration, he sat in silence and said, "God, I release this to you." In that moment, he felt peace. The next day, without warning, his company dissolved and he found himself free, terrified but liberated. Soon after, a new opportunity appeared, perfectly aligned with his passion. He realized the sign had been given long before, the restlessness, the exhaustion, the repeated obstacles. But he had mistaken them for curses instead of direction. Life was not denying him, it was redirecting him. The sign was always there, he simply hadn't recognized it. Let me tell you this truth. The sign is never given to convince you. It is given to confirm you. When you move in faith, the evidence follows. When you act on guidance, life responds. Waiting for a sign before you move is like waiting for the harvest before planting the seed. The law does not work that way. You must plant belief first, and the sign will appear as fruit. Say to yourself now, divine order is working through me. Infinite intelligence reveals what I need to know. Write it, whisper it, feel it. This is not superstition, it is law. Your subconscious receives that command, and it will guide you through impulses, coincidences, and inner knowing until the sign appears. But it was never outside, it was always within. You must remember this law: the subconscious speaks through experience. When you resist divine order, it will use discomfort to push you toward alignment. When you ignore intuition, it will increase tension until you listen. The delays, the failures, the sudden closures, these are not punishments, but prompts. The law does not scold, it corrects. It guides through both harmony and disruption, depending on what is required to move you forward. So stop asking for a sign and start reading the ones already written across your life. Every experience is a sentence in the divine conversation between your conscious and subconscious mind. Tonight, I want you to impress one truth so deeply that it becomes your compass. I am guided by infinite intelligence. I do not beg for signs. I recognize them. Write it. Speak it. Let it echo in the chambers of your soul. You are not lost. You are not forsaken. You are simply learning to see. The sign you seek will appear the moment you trust that it already exists. Life is always speaking, always directing, always answering. The question is, will you listen? Whisper it now. Let it brand itself upon your heart. I am one with divine guidance, free of fear and confusion. Every step I take is ordered by infinite intelligence. The sign is within me, and it appears without fail. You have been taught to search the sky for wonders, but the real miracle begins in the unseen corridors of your mind. The subconscious is not deaf to your cries. It has heard every prayer, every word, every sigh. Yet it cannot respond through noise. It responds through law. It does not send thunderbolts or flashes of light. It sends patterns, alignments, and impressions. You keep missing the sign because you keep looking outward when it appears inward first. You ask, what should I do? But the infinite has already whispered, be still and know. The answer is not hidden in the world. It is hidden in your awareness. The sign was never supposed to convince you of God's presence. It was meant to reveal that He has been guiding you all along, through the quiet rhythm of cause and effect. When you beg for signs, you are often saying, I do not yet believe. And belief is the very substance that brings the sign into being. This is the paradox. The one who demands proof cannot receive it, because proof follows faith, not the other way around. You cannot ask the soil for flowers before you plant the seed. You cannot ask the law to show you results while you doubt its operation. Life moves in response to conviction. When you believe that divine order governs your steps, the proof will appear in the smallest details. A delayed meeting that protects you, a sudden idea that saves you, a coincidence that opens the right door. But these are not accidents. They are reflections of faith made visible. Faith is the sign before the sign. Every so-called delay in your life has meaning. The door that closed was not rejection, it was redirection. The silence after your prayer was not absence, it was instruction. The sign you seek often hides behind stillness because the subconscious works in silence. It does not need to announce its process, it only needs your trust. The tree does not shout while growing roots, yet its silence is the proof of life. So too with your desires. The law is already working beneath the surface, arranging, aligning, preparing. But if you keep shouting for confirmation, you disturb the soil. You cannot dig up the seed each morning to check if it's growing. You must rest in faith. You must trust the process. The sign will come in its appointed time, when your inner conviction and outer readiness meet. Your intuition is the language through which the infinite speaks. It is the divine current flowing through your subconscious, translating divine intelligence into human impulse. It often comes as a sudden knowing, a quiet urge, a sense of ease or unease. When you are calm, you can feel it clearly. When you are restless, it becomes distorted. The voice of God is not loud, it is precise. It does not argue, it instructs. But to recognize it, you must cultivate stillness. Spend a few moments each night in quiet reflection, affirming, "Divine intelligence guides me perfectly. The right path is made clear before me." Write it down. Whisper it until it feels real. As you do, your subconscious begins to form the pattern of guidance. And life mirrors that pattern through events that seem coincidental, but are in fact divinely ordered. You have mistaken noise for power and silence for weakness, yet all creation begins in silence. The flower is born in silence, the dawn breaks in silence, and your greatest revelation will also come in silence. When you still your mind, the subconscious opens its gates and reveals the sign you have been asking for. Sometimes it comes as peace, where there was confusion. Sometimes it comes as unrest, where you were complacent. Sometimes it arrives as a sudden ending or a divine interruption. Whatever form it takes, it is always benevolent. Even the storm is a sign of correction, not destruction. The subconscious must rearrange circumstances to bring you into alignment with what you have impressed. The disruption is the reordering. The ending is the beginning. The loss is the redirection of life's current toward your fulfillment. Let me tell you this: the universe is never indifferent. It is meticulously responsive. When you think a thought, you have already set in motion the chain of signs that will confirm it. If you dwell on fear, you will see fearful signs. If you dwell on faith, you will see faith confirmed. The world is not mysterious, it is exact. Every coincidence, every delay, every repetition is a message from your subconscious, revealing what you have been impressing. You are never without guidance, you are only without awareness. Once you realize this, you stop asking for random signs and start reading the handwriting on the walls of your own experience. The law of life is the law of belief. Write it on your heart. The law of life is the law of belief. You say, "But I asked for a sign and nothing came." Did nothing come, or did something come that you refused to recognize because it did not look the way you expected? Life answers in ways that match your need, not your fantasy. You ask for strength, and life gives you challenge. You ask for courage, and life gives you a test. You ask for abundance, and life gives you an idea. You ask for guidance, and life removes the wrong path. The sign is rarely dressed in the costume you prefer, but it is always perfect. Divine order wastes nothing, delays nothing, denies nothing. What seems like denial is often protection. What feels like waiting is preparation. The infinite answers every prayer immediately. Only your readiness determines how and when it appears. The more you align with truth, the more effortlessly the signs appear. The sign is not a miracle, it is the natural outcome of right thinking. When you affirm divine order governs my life, the sign comes through harmony. When you affirm infinite intelligence reveals what I need to know, the sign comes through clarity. When you affirm I am guided, the sign comes through intuition. Write these truths on your paper tonight. Speak them softly before you sleep. Let them drop into your subconscious like seeds into fertile soil. Tomorrow you will find yourself guided not by anxiety, but by knowing. Not by chasing signs, but by living them. Say this quietly with me now, not as words, but as a decree to your own subconscious. I am one with divine order. I am guided, protected, and aligned. I do not chase signs. They come to me naturally, perfectly, and in divine timing. I rest in faith, for the law of life is the law of belief. Say it, feel it, let it sink in. For tonight you are impressing guidance, and tomorrow life will express direction. The sign is already on its way, not from the heavens above, but from the infinite within. You keep asking the universe for confirmation, yet you ignore the very language it speaks. The infinite does not speak in human sentences. It speaks in rhythm, intuition, coincidence, and alignment. Every event in your life, every meeting, every delay is a word in that sacred language. But when your mind is restless, you cannot read it. You demand lightning from the sky, while the truth passes silently through your own intuition. The universe is not withholding signs. It's you who have not learned to recognize them. Because a mind obsessed with evidence blinds itself to evidence already given. The law is clear. You cannot perceive what you do not believe. Your belief determines your vision, and your vision determines what you call a sign. If you are ruled by doubt, even a miracle will appear as chance. If you are ruled by faith, even a whisper will appear as revelation. Life reflects not what you see, but how you see. When you ask for a sign with fear in your heart, the fear becomes the signal your subconscious obeys. It will send confusion instead of clarity, for that is the image impressed upon it. But if you ask in faith, knowing that infinite intelligence is guiding every breath you take, then everything begins to align: the people you meet, the words you overhear, the very weather around you. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. You live in a world woven by law, not luck, and the sign you keep searching for has been written across your days since the moment you began to believe in something greater. When you pray for a sign, ask yourself, what am I truly asking? Do I seek permission, or am I seeking peace? The sign does not come to those who wish to avoid responsibility. It comes to those who have chosen direction and need only assurance. The law does not guide the idle, it guides the decisive. When you are uncertain, no sign can move you, for the subconscious mirrors indecision as delay. But the moment you commit inwardly, the world conspires to confirm it. It may come as an opening, as a sudden idea, as an inner calm that says, yes, this is right. You call it confirmation, but it is simply reflection. The universe cannot move for you until you move in belief. Guidance waits on readiness, and readiness begins with faith. I remember a woman who begged God for a sign to leave an unkind relationship. She waited for years, hoping for a voice, a dream, a miracle. But no sign came. One night she sat in silence and asked, not with fear but with surrender, God, show me the truth. In that stillness, a simple realization dawned. She already knew the truth. She had been waiting for heaven to confirm what her soul had been shouting for years. The next morning she left, calm and unafraid. A week later, new opportunities appeared. Peace returned, health improved. The sign had been her unrest all along. She just hadn't recognized it. When the heart knows, the sign appears as peace, the moment you obey. The infinite does not play hide and seek. It reveals through patterns, not puzzles. But your mind must be trained to read those patterns. Have you noticed how the same lessons keep repeating? How the same kinds of people, the same problems, the same endings reappear? These are not random. They are signals. The law of correspondence is perfect. As within, so without. The repetition is life's way of saying you have not yet changed the belief. Once you do, the pattern dissolves. The same door that once closed now opens. The same people now treat you differently. The same situations transform into blessings. It was never about the outer world. It was always about the inner impression. The pattern is the sign. The repetition is the message. The lesson is the language of God. Do not wait for thunder to strike. Listen for the quiet pull of intuition. That is the compass of the subconscious. It will never shout, never demand. It will simply guide. A sudden hesitation, a strange calm, a burst of inspiration. These are its words. It speaks the same way the ocean speaks to the tide, gently, consistently, with purpose. When you ignore it, life grows louder. Circumstances become harsher, until you finally listen. The pain was never punishment. It was redirection. The delay was never denial. It was preparation. The storm was never chaos. It was cleansing. The infinite does not fail to answer. You fail to understand its language. Learn the dialect of peace, and you will never be confused again. Understand this: you are never truly waiting for a sign. You are waiting to align with it. The moment your subconscious accepts the truth of divine guidance, the outer sign follows effortlessly. That is why I tell you, stop asking and start allowing. You are not waiting for life to reveal itself. Life is waiting for you to receive it. The sign is not something new. It is the evidence of belief made visible. When you affirm, I am divinely guided, the world must rearrange itself to confirm that statement. The law cannot contradict itself. The seed of faith cannot produce confusion. It must produce clarity. So tonight, instead of asking, declare, I already know, I already see, I am already guided. And then in peace, let the signs unfold. Every sign carries a tone of familiarity, because it was born from your own belief. It feels right not because it flatters your desire, but because it resonates with your inner conviction. That is how you know it is from God. It brings peace, not panic. The sign of divine order always removes fear. It may challenge you, but it never confuses you. It may lead you into the unknown, but it never abandons you there. Follow the peace, not the panic, and you will never miss a sign again. For peace is the signature of the infinite, stamped on every true direction. When you are calm, the entire universe becomes your map. Now let us impress this truth deeply. Say it softly with awareness. I am one with divine intelligence. I no longer chase signs, I live as the sign. I am guided by peace, led by wisdom, strengthened by faith. The universe speaks through me, for I and the infinite are one. Write it down. Whisper it until your heart believes it. For the sign you seek is already within you, and as you believe, so shall it be revealed. The law of life is the law of belief, and belief, once impressed, must be expressed. When you understand that the law of life is the law of belief, every sign becomes translation. The subconscious is your interpreter, decoding divine language into experience. It cannot resist the impressions you feed it. It only obeys. If you believe you are lost, life confirms that belief with confusion. If you believe you are guided, life confirms that belief with precision. The sign is not proof of belief, it is the echo of belief. You do not need to ask for the echo, you only need to speak the word. What you decree inwardly, the universe repeats outwardly. Therefore, every day, every hour, guard your decrees. Speak only what you wish the infinite to repeat. The greatest misunderstanding about divine guidance is that it comes to you. The truth is, it comes through you. You are the transmitter of the divine signal, but your doubt distorts the reception. Fear is static in the frequency of intuition. The moment you believe that infinite intelligence is guiding you, the static clears, and clarity flows like light through clean glass. The sign you have been begging for cannot penetrate a fearful mind, but the instant you affirm, divine order governs me now, the fog lifts. Circumstances that once seemed uncertain align themselves in perfect timing. Coincidences multiply. Conversations deliver clues. Even the simplest moments, a delay, a stranger's kindness, a recurring dream, carry the vibration of direction. The infinite speaks fluently through life itself. You have been waiting for confirmation, but the truth is this. The universe has already spoken, its language is movement. Every event, every person, every impulse is a living line in the story your subconscious is writing right now. Nothing is random. The delay, the sudden phone call, the loss, the opportunity, they are all expressions of a pattern first drawn within you. You say you want a sign, but you forget that you are standing inside one. The world around you is your belief made visible. The infinite does not send signs as interruptions. It reveals them as reflections. If your life feels clouded with confusion, it is not because the universe is silent. It is because your inner world is noisy. Silence the storm inside, and you will begin to see that every gust of wind outside has meaning. A young artist once came to me desolate, claiming that inspiration had left him. I pray for a sign, he said, but nothing comes. I asked him, what do you say to yourself before you paint? He sighed, I tell myself I have no ideas, that others are more gifted. And so the subconscious, loyal as ever, obeyed that command and withheld inspiration. I told him to replace it with, infinite intelligence expresses through me. My creativity flows freely and abundantly. Within days, his vision returned with brilliance. The sign had always been there, waiting on his faith to release it. The subconscious could not bring inspiration while he affirmed absence. It could only express what was impressed. The law had never failed, only his belief had faltered. Every unrecognized sign in your life has been a missed invitation to grow. The failure that repeated, the opportunity that slipped away, the door that refused to open, all were messages. They were not denials, they were directions. When the infinite sees you walking toward limitation, it does not shout, it redirects. That is why endings so often precede breakthroughs. The subconscious must dissolve one form before it can create another. The loss you mourn is often the clearing that makes room for the greater gift. You think God has forgotten you, but He is only removing what cannot stay in the presence of what you have asked for. The pruning is the proof of the promise. Your mind is both the radio and the station of the divine signal. Every thought you hold is a frequency, every feeling a vibration that summons its match. When you are fearful, you tune into a station of confusion. When you are calm, you tune into a station of peace. The universe does not punish, it synchronizes. What you vibrate, it reflects. This is why faith must precede signs. The station cannot play a song you have not tuned into. Do not wait for external validation. Begin to feel as though the guidance has already arrived. When your inner state becomes the signal, the world responds with evidence. Faith is not blind, it is visionary. It sees before sight, hears before sound, and trusts before proof. Now close your eyes, breathe deeply, and impress this truth upon your heart. I am one with divine order. Every step I take is guided by infinite intelligence. I no longer beg for direction, for I am direction made visible. I am calm, certain, and receptive to the signs already around me. Write it down, say it aloud, feel it resonate in your body. The law of life is the law of belief, and as you believe, the signs will follow. For belief is the cause, and the world is its radiant effect. Remember this, the subconscious always uses the quickest, simplest, and most harmonious route to fulfill your belief. If you affirm guidance, it does not need a burning bush to confirm it. It uses intuition, timing, and inner knowing. The divine sign will always be proportionate to your awareness. The greater your trust, the subtler the signal. When your faith matures, you no longer need proof, you live in proof. The advanced soul recognizes the sign in every breath, every heartbeat, every unfolding moment. He no longer asks, "Where is the sign?" He declares, "I am the sign." So many people ask for signs, but fear change, not realizing that change itself is the sign. The sign that your prayer is working is the discomfort that urges you out of stagnation. The sign that your affirmation is alive is the tension that stretches you beyond the old pattern. The universe cannot pour new wine into old vessels. The moment your subconscious accepts a higher belief, your old environment begins to dissolve. It is not chaos, it is correction. The walls shake only because the foundation of fear is breaking. The sign of answered prayer often looks like disruption before it feels like blessing. Stay steady. The law never destroys, it transforms. You keep asking for a sign because you think God has forgotten you. But the truth is that He never stopped speaking. You simply stopped listening in the right frequency. The subconscious mind is His channel. It transmits His direction through intuition, through sudden knowing, through what men call coincidence. But when fear clogs that channel, the signal becomes distorted. You think God is silent, but it is your own doubt echoing back to you. The infinite speaks in perfect clarity, but only a quiet mind can receive it. This is why stillness is power. When you still your mind, you tune into the divine wavelength where every answer already exists. The noise of worry, the constant questioning, the begging for proof, these are the static that keep you deaf to the voice that is already whispering the way. People ask, why won't God give me a clear sign? Yet if He shouted, you would call it coincidence. You have been trained to believe only what your eyes can see, and so the unseen guidance slips by unnoticed. But life is not random. Every delay, every rejection, every sudden opportunity carries divine handwriting. The sign is not hidden. It is disguised in the ordinary. The text you receive at the perfect time, the stranger who utters the exact phrase you needed, the failure that pushes you onto a new path. These are not accidents. These are confirmations. The divine does not waste motion. The law of order governs all things. The sooner you stop treating the ordinary as meaningless, the sooner you will see that miracles have been surrounding you all along. There is a law that governs this unseen communication. What you expect, you attract. What you fear, you confirm. The subconscious fulfills your most consistent expectation, whether you are aware of it or not. If you expect disappointment, every event will appear as a sign of failure. If you expect divine guidance, every event will serve your good. The law cannot contradict itself. You are always seeing what you have been believing. The world mirrors your assumptions with unflinching accuracy. That is why changing your belief does not just change your mood, it changes the signs you receive. For life speaks the language of your faith. When you walk in fear, the universe confirms fear. When you walk in trust, it confirms guidance. You are not waiting for the sign is waiting for your alignment. There was once a businessman drowning in confusion. Every deal collapsed, every path seemed blocked. He begged the heavens for a sign. In a dream, he saw a bridge broken in the middle. He awoke terrified, thinking disaster was coming. But the sign was not warning, it was wisdom. The broken bridge represented his divided belief, half faith, half fear. He would begin boldly but retreat in doubt, never crossing the gap of uncertainty. Once he understood this, he made a new affirmation. I cross the bridge of faith with complete trust. Divine order goes before me. Within weeks, his affairs stabilized, his success returned. The dream was never against him. It was his subconscious speaking in the only language it knows, symbol. You must learn that same language, for the infinite speaks to you through the images of your own mind. The subconscious never argues. It simply obeys. It accepts your feeling as command and projects it into your life as experience. If you feel lost, it will faithfully produce confusion. If you feel guided, it will faithfully produce direction. Feelings are prayers, and they are answered in kind. So if you want a sign, create the feeling of already being guided. Close your eyes and say within yourself, I am led perfectly by infinite intelligence. Every step I take is in divine order. Feel it until it becomes real. The moment your subconscious accepts this, the sign will appear effortlessly. You will find yourself in the right place, meeting the right people, saying the right words. Life will flow like a river, not because God suddenly favored you, but because you finally stopped resisting His order. Many people are addicted to asking for signs because they fear making the wrong move. But fear does not protect you, it paralyzes you. The universe cannot guide a stagnant mind. Movement is faith in action. When you take a step in confidence, life answers with confirmation. The sign does not come before movement, it comes after. The light does not appear for the man standing still. It appears for the one who dares to walk into the dark, trusting that illumination will meet him there. That is faith. That is the law. The subconscious cannot organize a future you are too afraid to approach. You must move first, believe first, act first, and then the signs will appear to affirm that you were right to trust. You may ask, but how do I know if the voice within is divine guidance or my own desire? The answer lies in its quality. The voice of desire shouts for pleasure, but the voice of divine order whispers of peace. The voice of ego urges haste, but the voice of intuition speaks with calm certainty. The voice of God never frightens, it strengthens. It never flatters, it clarifies. It never condemns, it directs. If the thought brings harmony, courage, and quiet confidence, it is from the infinite. If it brings tension, confusion, and fear, it is from the lower self. The sign of truth is peace. Write it down. The sign of truth is peace. The world you inhabit is a mirror for the dialogue between your conscious and subconscious mind. Every unanswered prayer is not denial, it is correction. Every closed door is a redirection toward something more aligned with your belief. If you feel abandoned, it is because you have impressed abandonment. If you feel supported, it is because you have impressed divine guidance. The law is mercilessly just. It gives each man exactly what he believes. But therein lies your freedom, for belief is the only key you need to change everything. Change your belief, and life itself must rearrange to reflect it. So tonight, as you listen, stop asking for proof and start creating faith. Instead of saying, show me a sign, say thank you for the signs that are already appearing. This transforms your energy from waiting to receiving. Say it quietly with me now. I am guided by infinite wisdom. I trust the law of divine order. I am surrounded by signs of guidance, protection, and abundance. I am one with God's perfect plan for my life. Write it, whisper it, let it sink beyond thought into knowing. For the law of life is the law of belief, and belief itself is the sign you've been waiting for. You are surrounded by divine order every day, but your attention has been hijacked by fear. Fear narrows your perception, blinding you to what faith would reveal. A fearful mind cannot see guidance because it believes chaos is stronger than law. But the moment you affirm that the law of life governs all things, your vision clears. You begin to see patterns where you once saw problems, synchronicities where you once saw accidents. What changed was not the world, it was your inner state. The subconscious projects your conviction onto reality like a film onto a screen. The law cannot fail. If you live in confusion, it is because you have impressed confusion. If you live in harmony, it is because you have impressed harmony. Say it with me now, as within, so without. The world is the reflection of what I believe. You think the sign you're waiting for will appear as light from the sky. But the truth is, the sign is your next thought. Every intuition, every quiet urge, every sudden idea is the infinite speaking through your subconscious mind. But you keep dismissing it because it arrives too softly, too normally, too human. You expect the divine to shout, yet God always whispers. The infinite does not interrupt, it aligns. It arranges events, nudges your feelings, and guides you through what seems like ordinary coincidence. And because you do not yet trust this law, you mistake the sacred for the small. But understand this now, the universe does not speak in volume, it speaks in precision. The sign you seek is not grand, it is specific. It appears exactly when and where your faith is ready to see it. A man once came to me weary and defeated. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I've asked for signs, I've prayed, I've begged, nothing happens." I asked him, "What do you feel when you ask?" He said, "I feel desperate." I told him, "Then that is what you are impressing. The subconscious does not hear your words, it hears your feeling. When you pray in desperation, you are commanding the law to bring you more reasons to feel desperate." I instructed him to reverse the pattern. Each night he was to fall asleep, affirming calmly, "Divine order is working through me now. I am at peace. I am guided in perfect ways." Within weeks, his life changed entirely. The signs came not because they had been missing, but because his inner atmosphere had finally made them visible. The signs that truly matter are not the ones that excite you. They are the ones that transform you. True signs deepen your peace, not your anxiety. They do not flatter your ego. They awaken your faith. They do not say, "Look how special you are." They say, "Look how supported you are." They redirect you to the truth that your own consciousness is the creative center of light. When you understand this, you stop chasing signs like a beggar and start walking as a co-creator. You no longer cry, "Give me a sign." You declare, "I am the sign." For when you embody faith, everything you touch becomes confirmation. The world mirrors your certainty. The river flows where your belief directs it. Do not mistake silence for absence. The universe is most active when it appears most still. When nothing seems to be happening, everything is being arranged. The soil works beneath the surface long before the flower breaks through. The subconscious works the same way. It brings your belief into form quietly, systematically, without spectacle. That's why impatience is dangerous. When you demand signs on your timetable, you uproot the process before it blooms. Faith must become your atmosphere, not your emergency exit. When you trust that the law is working, you no longer panic when results delay. You rest, knowing that divine timing is exact. Delay is not denial, it is synchronization. Do you see? The sign always matches your emotional tone. When you live in fear, you draw signs of fear, warnings, losses, delays. When you live in faith, you draw signs of order, help, clarity, provision. You are never without guidance. You are only without alignment. The infinite never stops speaking. You stop listening when you worship fear more than faith. The law of attraction is not about asking, it is about assuming. The moment you assume guidance, the moment you live as if you are already led, your subconscious begins to orchestrate every detail accordingly. You move through life not guessing but knowing. This knowing is peace, and peace is the language of divine order. When you begin to see through this lens, life becomes luminous. You no longer resist what happens, for you know it carries meaning. You stop labeling experiences as good or bad. You start asking, what is this teaching me? The infinite does not waste experience. Every event is instruction, every encounter revelation. The very challenge that once frightened you becomes a sacred classroom. Once you master the lesson, the test disappears. The pattern ends, because the belief has changed. The law is complete. It never leaves a single lesson unfinished. When you realize this, you will understand that every sign was not there to confirm your prayer. It was there to evolve your perception. Tonight, I want you to impress this truth so deeply that it reshapes the way you live. I no longer chase signs, I create alignment. I am guided by infinite intelligence in perfect peace. What I believe, I see. What I feel, I attract. What I affirm, I become. Write it, whisper it. Let it sink into the depths of your mind until it becomes more real than what you see. For the sign you seek is not coming from the sky. It is coming from your own belief. The law of life is the law of belief, and belief is the bridge between asking and receiving. Walk that bridge tonight in peace, and you will find that the sign has been waiting for you all along. Let me tell you of a woman who prayed for guidance about whether to leave her stagnant job. Every morning she asked for a sign, yet nothing seemed to happen until her supervisor suddenly grew critical. Her workload doubled and her peace evaporated. She grew angry, feeling punished until she realized the truth. These were her signs. Life was making her uncomfortable, so she would finally move toward the growth she had been asking for. The universe was not cruel, it was precise. The law had simply used her environment to steer her forward. She left that job soon after, started her own business, and later said to me, "The worst month of my life was actually God's loudest answer." Remember this, guidance often arrives disguised as disturbance. You keep wondering why the signs don't come, yet the truth is they come every day, only they do not look the way you expected. You want them painted in gold, announced with certainty, but the infinite hides wisdom in subtleties. The very conversation that annoys you might contain your message. The sudden delay might be your protection. The door that closes might be divine mercy. You miss the signs not because they aren't clear, but because your ego wants them grand. Yet the divine prefers quiet precision over spectacle. The universe does not waste energy proving itself to the doubtful. It moves elegantly through timing, intuition, and alignment. When you humble your mind and open your heart, you begin to see that every moment is a message, every shift a sentence from the infinite. The law never contradicts itself. Everything in your life right now is a result of a previous impression on your subconscious. What you call confusion is unrecognized order. What you call silence is a pause between instructions. The infinite does not speak twice. Once is enough. If you did not hear it, it repeats as circumstance. When you ignore inner guidance, the outer world begins to speak louder until you listen. The breakup, the loss, the sudden turning point. They are not punishments. They are translations of the message you refuse to hear within. The sign is not just what appears, it is what persists. What keeps repeating in your life is not coincidence, it is communication. Write that down. What repeats is what speaks. If you have been seeing the same obstacles, the same frustrations, the same outcomes, stop blaming life and start studying the pattern. The repetition reveals the belief you have not yet changed. The law cannot be fooled. It will play the same scene until you rewrite the script. Your subconscious holds on to old images until you give it a new vision to express. Stop asking for new signs while holding on to old fears. The new cannot arrive until the old belief is dissolved. The moment you release the idea of limitation, the entire sequence of your life changes, because the subconscious no longer has to express the same old pattern. Freedom is not given by the universe. It is given by understanding the law. A woman once asked me, "Why does God keep bringing me people who disappoint me?" I told her, the infinite brings you mirrors, not enemies. Until you stop seeing yourself as unworthy, you will attract those who confirm that belief. The sign is not the person, it is the pattern. She began affirming, "I am worthy of love. I am one with divine affection and mutual respect." Within months, her circle transformed. She did not beg for a new sign. She became one. The subconscious always fulfills the identity you assume. This is why begging for proof is futile. You are the proof. You manifest what you believe about yourself. The law of life is the law of identity. To change the signs, change the self that interprets them. The greatest sign that your prayer is being answered is peace in your heart. Before the outer evidence comes, the inner calm appears. This peace is not passive. It is a signal that the subconscious has accepted your command. Once it accepts, the manifestation is inevitable. Worry, on the other hand, is the sign of resistance. It means your conscious mind is still arguing with divine law. Peace means agreement. When peace settles, the creative process is complete. That is why Jesus said, "Peace, be still." He was not silencing the storm, he was silencing the fear. The moment fear quiets, the law begins its work unhindered. Do not chase external confirmation, cultivate internal stillness. The sign of faith fulfilled is peace, not proof. When you feel lost, stop searching the horizon. Turn inward and ask, what am I believing right now? The universe will always match that belief. If you believe you are forgotten, you will see absence. If you believe you are guided, you will see alignment. The sign changes instantly when your belief changes. The moment you decide you are guided, the world rearranges itself to reflect it. You are not a bystander in creation. You are its center. Every event bends toward the pattern of your conviction. The subconscious does not debate, it executes. So take responsibility for the signs that appear. They are not punishments. They are precise reflections of your inner dialogue. The problem is not that life refuses to speak, it's that you refuse to interpret. You want prophecy while ignoring pattern. You want clarity without discipline. But spiritual maturity means reading reality like scripture. Every coincidence is a verse, every encounter a parable, every challenge a teaching. Once you learn to read, you never again feel lost. Even darkness becomes instruction. The absence of light is simply the reminder that you carry the flame. The infinite hides no secrets. It only waits for you to notice. When you start treating every moment as divine communication, you realize the world has never been silent. The signs were never late. You were simply untrained to see. Let us affirm this together so that the truth becomes alive within you. I no longer search outside for confirmation. I read the handwriting of God written across my own experience. I am guided by divine law, protected by divine order, and sustained by divine peace. Every pattern reveals purpose. Every moment carries meaning. Every event leads me to greater understanding. Write it, speak it, feel it, until it becomes conviction. The law of life is the law of belief, and belief creates the language of signs. When you believe in guidance, life becomes a conversation with the infinite. And once you learn that language, you will never ask for a sign again, because you will know that you are surrounded by them. You are not waiting for a sign. The sign is waiting for your stillness. The infinite does not compete for your attention. It whispers in the pauses between your thoughts. You cannot hear divine instruction while rushing from fear to fear, idea to idea, doubt to doubt. The subconscious, which carries out the commands of the infinite, receives only what you feel in silence. When your mind is cluttered, you are broadcasting confusion into that silent workshop of creation. But when you become still, the waters clear and reflection appears. The sign is not something you look for, it's something you allow. The moment you quiet the noise, the next step becomes obvious, not because it appears out of nowhere, but because it was always there, hidden behind your own mental turbulence. This is the paradox of guidance. The harder you try to find the sign, the further it hides. You cannot force divine communication through anxiety. The law of life does not respond to desperation. It responds to calm conviction. When you say, "I must know now," you declare fear, not faith. But when you say, "Divine intelligence reveals what I need to know in perfect time," you align with the infinite's rhythm. And in that alignment, everything unfolds naturally. You notice what you once ignored. The call comes. The path opens. The right word reaches your ear at the right moment. This is not magic. This is law. The subconscious arranges the sequence of events in exact response to your inner state. Life is never chaotic. It only mirrors the chaos or harmony within you. You think the sign you want will appear in the clouds. Yet the divine prefers to speak through your circumstances. When you are out of alignment, signs appear as discomfort, resistance, confusion. When you are aligned, signs appear as ease, flow, and peace. The infinite will use both, because it does not punish, it educates. Pain is the sign that you are resisting. Peace is the sign that you are allowing. When you refuse to act on intuition, discomfort will increase until you do. The law of life is mercifully persistent. It will repeat the lesson through experiences until you understand. When the same challenge keeps reappearing, it is not life being cruel, it is life saying, "This is where your belief must change." Every repetition is mercy disguised as frustration. The moment you understand this, your relationship with signs changes. You stop asking for direction and start reading the map that has always been unfolding. You realize the delay is not a pause in divine communication. It is part of the conversation. Every silence, every waiting period is filled with instruction. The infinite never stops speaking. It simply adjusts the tone until you listen. When your conscious mind grows quiet, your subconscious begins to speak. It speaks through feeling, through knowing, through flashes of inspiration. You do not hear it with your ears. You perceive it with your peace. That is the language of God, peace. If you can feel peace about a decision, that peace is your confirmation. If you feel tension, that tension is also guidance. The infinite communicates through your nervous system as much as your mind. Learn to trust the texture of calm. A young woman once told me she begged for a sign to show whether she should move to another city. I asked every day, she said, but I never heard anything. I asked her what she felt when she thought of leaving. I felt light, she said, and when I thought of staying, heavy. I told her, then the sign has already spoken. The subconscious knows truth by vibration. Lightness is alignment. Heaviness is resistance. The infinite guides not through argument, but through feeling. She trusted the lightness, moved, and soon found the work and peace she had prayed for. The guidance was not in the sky, it was in her own vibration. Remember this, peace is the signature of truth. When you learn to read feeling as instruction, you will never be lost again. You must also remember that guidance is not always pleasant. Growth rarely arrives in comfort. Sometimes the sign appears as disruption because comfort is too small for your calling. When the infinite wants you to rise, it will shake what you cling to. You think the crumbling is punishment, but it is promotion. The law of divine order cannot allow stagnation. When you hold on to what you've outgrown, life must remove it. The sign of answered prayer often looks like loss at first, because the new space must be cleared before the new blessing can arrive. So when things fall apart, do not cry for what was. Give thanks for what is coming. The pruning is proof that your garden is alive. Stop expecting signs to appear in isolation. They appear as sequences, one thing leading to another, often invisible until you look back. Life is like a constellation. The meaning of the stars is only visible in hindsight. When you trust the law, you do not need to know where each star leads. You know the pattern will make sense when complete. Faith is the ability to keep walking before the picture is finished. The subconscious will reveal the next step, never the whole map. It protects you from overwhelm by giving you light enough for one moment at a time. That is not punishment, it is precision. If you could see the entire plan, you would not grow faith. You would only manage control. The infinite prefers transformation over convenience. Let this be your affirmation tonight, the key that opens your inner ear. I am guided perfectly by the law of divine order. I am calm, receptive, and still. I no longer chase signs, I live in awareness of them. I trust the timing of the infinite and the wisdom of my own peace. Every feeling, every delay, every shift carries meaning, and I understand it in divine clarity. Write it, whisper it, feel it. For this is not just an affirmation, it is a declaration of readiness. You no longer need thunder to confirm truth. The whisper within you is enough, and when you trust that whisper, every moment becomes revelation, every breath becomes guidance, and every step becomes the sign you once begged to see. You keep saying you want to be shown the way, yet the way is always revealed in proportion to your willingness to walk. The infinite does not show maps, it gives movement. You will never see the full staircase, only the next step. But that next step is the sign. The hesitation you feel is not lack of guidance, it is lack of trust. You cannot receive instruction for a journey you refuse to begin. The law does not reward waiting, it rewards faith in action. When you take the first step, the second appears. This is why signs seem to arrive after decision, not before it. The subconscious only confirms what you commit to. When you decide, you set divine law in motion. And once it moves, life conspires to support you in ways logic cannot predict. The proof of guidance is revealed through progress, not paralysis. There was once a man who wanted to start his own business, but feared losing stability. For months he prayed, God, give me a sign. None came. One day, his company announced massive layoffs, and his position was eliminated. At first he cursed the heavens. Then, Forced by necessity, he began the very business he dreamed of. Within a year, he earned more than ever before. The sign had not been denial, it had been direction. He had asked for guidance, and the law delivered it by removing the path that kept him trapped. The subconscious always obeys the greater belief. Deep down, he wanted freedom more than safety, and the infinite honored that truth. The universe does not punish, it liberates. But liberation often arrives disguised as loss. Every so-called crisis is a coded message from divine law. When things break apart, it is because your current belief can no longer hold what your new destiny requires. The collapse is not chaos, it is expansion. You prayed for growth, and growth requires space. The sign of answered prayer often feels like demolition before it feels like creation. The subconscious cannot build new forms on old foundations. It must first clear the ground. This is why spiritual awakenings often follow breakdowns. The structure of fear must fall so the architecture of faith can rise. So when your life begins to rearrange, do not panic. Recognize it as guidance. The infinite is not taking something from you. It is taking you somewhere higher. When the universe wants your attention, it uses precision, not punishment. A sudden coincidence that feels too meaningful to ignore. A dream that echoes your deepest truth. A conversation that confirms your thought. All of these are forms of divine dialogue. But to receive them, your inner state must be receptive. The subconscious speaks through intuition, and intuition speaks through stillness. You cannot hear subtle instruction when your mind is at war. The ego screams for proof, but the soul whispers direction. Train yourself to listen for the whisper. It will never frighten you. It will always clarify you. It will say peace, not panic. It will say here, not elsewhere. The voice of the infinite carries no urgency, only authority. That calm certainty is the signature of divine law. A woman once came to me grieving the end of a long friendship. She said, "I begged God to show me if this person was meant to stay in my life." Days later, they left me completely. She called it heartbreak, but it was guidance. The subconscious had heard her request and removed what no longer aligned. The pain was not punishment, it was purification. I told her the sign you asked for came as subtraction. The infinite guides not only through what it gives, but through what it removes. Some doors are closed not to block you, but to redirect you. Some people depart not to wound you, but to free you. The sign of divine order is not always addition. It is often release. You must understand, divine law never fails. Every unanswered prayer is an answered one disguised in correction. If what you asked for did not arrive, it is because your subconscious knew it was not in harmony with your true path. The infinite hears what your conscious mind cannot admit. It answers the essence of your desire, not the surface of your words. You may pray for a person when what you really need is peace. You may pray for money when what you really need is freedom. You may pray for recognition when what you truly need is purpose. The law gives you what aligns with your soul, not what feeds your fear. And that alignment always comes with signs. Some gentle, some sharp, but always exact. You can train yourself to read these signs by shifting from reaction to reflection. When something unexpected happens, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this showing me?" The infinite does not waste experience. Every event is instruction. The argument that exposed your pride, the loss that revealed your strength, the delay that strengthened your patience, these were lessons, not accidents. The subconscious speaks through experience, and experience speaks through pattern. Once you understand the lesson, the pattern disappears, and the sign evolves to the next level. That is why wisdom feels lighter than knowledge. It no longer repeats, it flows. If you would live guided, you must make peace with uncertainty. The law works in silence and sequence. You are not meant to know everything at once. The infinite gives only what your current faith can sustain. Asking for signs without cultivating faith is like demanding sunlight while refusing to open the blinds. You must prepare your inner world for the light you seek. Faith opens the window, signs pour through it, and the greater your trust, the more effortless the guidance becomes. You move through life, not guessing, but sensing, not reacting, but responding, not hoping, but knowing. Affirm this now as your seal of trust. I no longer resist the signs of the infinite. I welcome guidance in every form, gain or loss, peace or change. I see divine order in all that unfolds. I trust the process of life completely. I am one with the rhythm of creation, calm, confident, and aware. Say it until it feels real, until it anchors in the subconscious as law. For the moment you believe this, you will never again fear the unknown. You will see that it has always been your guide, and in that awareness, the whole world becomes your sign. You have spent years asking for signs, yet the final revelation is this: you were never meant to chase signs. You were meant to become one. Every moment of your life, every triumph and trial, has been a message from the infinite, preparing you to embody the very guidance you sought. The sign you wanted was not proof written in the stars. It was transformation written in your soul. All along, the law of life was teaching you that creation begins and ends within. What you call divine communication is the movement of your own consciousness aligning with the will of God. When you think rightly, the world speaks back in harmony. When you doubt, it echoes chaos. Heaven is not above, it is the pattern of belief you impress upon the unseen. And the sign that you are one with it is peace, power, and knowing. The universe is precise. It never wastes a symbol. Everything you have lived was ordered by your own belief, and every experience carried coded instruction. Pain taught you awareness. Failure taught you patience. Loss taught you detachment. Silence taught you listening. Every unanswered prayer was not rejection, it was refinement. The sign you begged for was the lesson you ignored. Once the lesson was learned, the sign appeared as understanding. You did not need the sky to open, because heaven opened within you. That is what the law was trying to show you, that the infinite does not speak to the surface, it speaks to the center. When your heart aligns with faith, the whole universe responds like an echo, saying, "Yes, now you see." When you grasp this truth, you stop bargaining with life. You no longer demand evidence, for you have become evidence. You no longer beg for clarity lives within you. You move with quiet authority, guided by peace instead of panic, assurance instead of noise. This is the state of the illumined mind. The one who trusts the unseen is greater than the seen. He walks without signs because he walks as a sign. He does not follow omens, he creates them through belief. When such a man enters a room, even silence feels purposeful, even stillness feels alive. He no longer asks, "God, where are you?" For his every thought is communion, his every action an act of faith. He does not hope for miracles. He understands that life itself is the miracle. One woman told me, "I asked for a sign that God still cared." The next day a stranger smiled at her on the street. She brushed it off, too small to matter. Later she heard a song that echoed the words she needed most. Still, she said, "That can't be it." Weeks passed, and she felt abandoned. But what she called absence was saturation. She was surrounded by signs so gentle they escaped her anxious eyes. The infinite had answered her prayer 100 times, but she demanded thunder instead of light. This is what many of you do. You set conditions for how grace must appear, and when it arrives differently, you dismiss it. The divine is subtle because it wants you to see through stillness, not spectacle. To recognize the sacred in the ordinary is the true awakening. The most powerful sign that your consciousness is matured is gratitude in advance. The moment you begin to thank the universe before it delivers, you are already in union with divine order. Gratitude is the vibration of completion. It tells the subconscious, "It is done." And the law, hearing that command, must express it as form. That is why the masters gave thanks before every miracle. They knew the miracle was not coming. It was already created in mind. The sign of faith fulfilled is not waiting, it is thanksgiving. Begin each morning saying, "Thank you, infinite intelligence, for guiding me, for blessing me, for revealing my path." Do not wait for the evidence, become the evidence through gratitude. For what you thank, you magnify. What you acknowledge, you attract. You may ask, what happens when I no longer need signs? The answer is peace. When you no longer crave confirmation, you live in confirmation. When you no longer seek direction, you embody direction. The subconscious, perfectly trained, becomes your silent partner, executing every impression with divine precision. You think and it moves. You affirm and it manifests. You imagine and it constructs. This is mastery, the union of conscious and subconscious as one mind with God. When you reach this harmony, every breath, every thought, every movement becomes guided. You no longer pray for light, you walk as the light. You no longer ask for proof, your very being is proof. This is the kingdom within, the state where the law and the believer are one. The world will call you lucky. They will say things just work out for you. But you will know it is not luck, it is law. The law of belief, the law of correspondence, the law of divine order. All working through you, not for you, because you are no longer separate from them. You do not need to manipulate life because you trust it completely. You do not fear loss because you understand the rhythm of renewal. You do not cling to signs because you are attuned to their source. You are calm amid uncertainty, radiant amid darkness, sure amid doubt. You have discovered what saints and sages meant when they said, "Be still and know." The stillness is not absence of movement. It is the awareness that the infinite moves through you perfectly. Understand this. Your life is no longer a search for meaning. It is the expression of meaning. You are not waiting for destiny. You are destiny revealed. You are not praying for signs. You are the sign that prayer works. Every breath you take, every act of love, every decision made in faith is a living testament to divine law. This realization ends the longing, dissolves the fear, and replaces confusion with calm. You have found the kingdom of heaven not as a place, but as a state of awareness. And from this awareness flows power, peace, and poise, the trinity of the awakened soul. Now let this truth take root in your subconscious, so deeply that it becomes your natural way of being. Say it with conviction, write it with faith, and feel it with gratitude. I am one with divine intelligence. I no longer ask for signs. I live as the sign. I am guided, protected, and prospered in perfect order. Everything I desire already exists within me, and the world reflects it back in divine timing. I am peace, I am power, I am proof of the infinite made visible. Let these words sink into the depths of your mind until they echo through your being. For when you awaken tomorrow, you will not look for the sign. You will walk as the one who understands that life itself has always been the answer.